The good news is, I just read an USA Today article yesterday. Of course, I've been doing a lot of reading before this presentation to make sure I'm up to date and learn all this stuff. As we start to think about the global economy, there are options now that if you need nursing care or opportunities for care, that you can go in other developing countries. So the USA Today article was about nursing care at Lake Chapala in Mexico, which is this beautiful, serene setting with a mountain lake and very relaxing, and 24/7 care, English-speaking attendants. And it was 1/4 of the cost of what it would be in the United States. So I think they said maybe up to 80,000 Americans have already moved down to this particular country. Now, there's countries all over the world that offer something similar. So this could be part of the plan. You could say, well, I can't afford $6,000 a month in nursing care, which is the average cost today in full assistant nursing homes. However, I might be open to, my homeland. My ancestors are Polish. So I might be open to going to Poland and having some nursing there. So these are things to consider that, wow, there are opportunities worldwide that if we don't have the resources that we could look elsewhere. Now, there's more good news. It's never, ever too late to start investing. We may look at our lives and say, oh, I didn't start when I was 25, so, or I didn't start when I was 35. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. It matters, and it doesn't even matter how much. It just matters that there's some, and then you watch your money grow. It is really fun to watch your money grow. Whether it's $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, it is fun. And it doesn't matter if you waited till you were 60 to put your first $1,000 away. It doesn't matter. The point is that you are taking control and that you have a plan. And that's what today is about. I get to design my life. I get to have a plan. I get to think about when I want to retire, how I want to live when I'm retired. I get to think how old I'm going to live. It's going to be 100. And then I get to start putting little bits of money away. Like I said, it matters not how much. It just matters that you do it and not at what age. Here's a great chart. Now, I have on the left-hand column, it says 25, but look over here, that we could change that to 55. It doesn't have to be 25. I put it here because it's always better to start young. So for the younger people in the audience, it's good to start young, but that could say 55 or 65 because your money grows. So this is one of my favorite charts because it really talks about the power of compounding interest, which even when I look at it, I think, wow, is that really true? Did I check my facts on it? But it is true. So here is an early starter, which let's say they started at 25. And they put away $2,000 a year. That's just $5 a day. Just $5 a day. $2,000 a year for 10 years. Okay. Then they didn't do any more contributions. That's it. Maybe they had kids. They would save for college. That was it. They didn't put anything else away. But they did it when they was young. The late bloomer started putting money away at 35, 10 years later. Okay, let's see what happens, because this is important. Remember our early starter over here, only 10 years. By the time they're 54, they have $135,000. When they're 54, okay, they're probably not going to retire at 54, but you put a cutoff date eventually. $5 a day for 10 years, 25 to 35, a lot of energy working, could probably spare it, $135,000. Our late bloomer, who started at 35, 10 years later, is putting away approximately $5 a day. So $2,000 has to do it for, now, 20 years, but has less, $91,000. This is why it's so important to start earlier in the compounding interest that occurs. So if we change that to 25 to 55, we could still, by the time you're 85, you're still going to have that amount of money, so it doesn't matter how old. This is 54, but I could say it's 84 if you think you're going to live to 100. Having done this job for about 10 years now, educating women and families about personal finance, everyone knows who I am in my community, and something happens. Oh, talk to Ms. Money. Talk to Tiffany Basbuco tell her your story, see what she thinks. Or I get people writing in and telling me their stories. And one of the main themes that I see with the most devastating circumstances are those who are underinsured. Typically, when you're relying on a two-income family, and one of those income earners, let's say the larger income earner passes on early, which it happens, the family is left with a burden that is just beyond belief. And when I read those stories, I think, wow, it really reminds me how having insurance is so important to the financial plan, whether it's life or health or home or auto or flood. I mean, think about what's happened lately. My son, last year in preschool, he's in kindergarten now, preschool was delayed because his preschool teacher, relatively young, 3 children, our youngest who's 9, husband suddenly passed away from stomach cancer in his 40s. Now, the interesting thing is he was a tax advisor, so he's in the financial business. But they didn't have life insurance. And so I have chills just talking about the story because I spent a year counseling her and trying to get her back on her feet and talking about scholarship in college for her children in ways that she can manage on 1/4 of the income. Now, they live in California where the cost of living is just so astronomical. And it really broke my heart to think, wow, he's in the financial business, or, your family was, but they didn't have something simple like life insurance, which could have completely protected her from this terrible situation. So most of the situations I see are catastrophes where people aren't properly insured. Maybe they had a fire and they lost their house, or maybe a good friend of mine who should have known better in grad school had his health insurance lapse. Only a few months, but guess what happened? Emergency appendectomy. $45,000 later. Just for that 3 months of having his insurance. All he needed was a major medical policy, $50 a month. He was 27 at the time. And he had to pay $45,000. So it's very important as a component of thinking about your plan. Remember that fun financial plan? These are the pieces, the puzzle pieces. Make sure insurance is an important part of that plan. All right, so you said, great, $5 a day. I don't have $5 a day. I feel that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how to tell you to find $5 a day. So the second part of the presentation, let's take a look at that. How can I find $5 a day? I need to spare some change. I need to be popping some quarters in my piggy bank. Let's find out how. Paper or plastic? And I don't mean the grocery kind. How many of you use your credit card for all your purchases? I do. Luckily, I grew up in a household where my mother, by example, said, never spend more than you make. So I use my credit card for everything, but I pay off my bill at the end of the month. And I have a really good sense how much money I have in the bank. So it's very rare that I would have to leave a balance. But many people kind of treat it like cash. And so they think, oh, my credit card, and the average person has 5 to 7. That's a lot of credit cards. Oh, this one's full. Oh, this one's empty. Let's use this one to pay off that one. It's all this kind of like monopoly money, and we don't think about it. And it's not really our fault because it's just a piece of plastic. So if we leave something on there, what we don't realize is if we leave it on there for years, which a lot of my best friends did after college, and part of the reason I started Miss Money, a lot of my girlfriends just racked up the credit card debt. $5,000 when they were seniors, $10,000 when they were 25, 30. When they were 30, it was $20,000 and just didn't pay it off. Now that jacket that you bought for that event, which cost you $50, now costs you $100 because you've been paying interest on it for a few years. So things cost twice as much. So if we could just keep in our minds to use cash, or even if we're using credit to pay it off, then we're already saving money. Little things add up. I mean, who isn't guilty of this? Running to a convenience store and buying a little something to fill you up. Oh, I've been working all day. I just need this. I do that. Oh, Starburst. Oh, yeah. Those are good. There's a reason Starbucks is a multi-million-dollar company. Multi-billion, billion. Because they rely on just $5 a day. However, from 150 million people. It's amazing how $5 a day can accumulate to billions of dollars. So I'm sure there's something in your life. It may not be coffee and a muffin or a bagel, but there's something in your life that you're probably spending $5 a day that you could maybe not. I stopped getting my nails done. I had my nails done for 8 years when I was younger. And it's expensive, and I hated going there every week. And now I don't get my nails done.